So what is anger? Anger is an emotion that we are all familiar with. All humans experience anger. I thought about anger and I wanted to know exactly, why did I get angry? Why did other people get angry? And in listening to different viewpoints, professional viewpoints, people who were psychiatrists, psychologists, these people ultimately were all saying that anger is not only healthy, but it is necessary. It helps us defend in times when we need. It propels us into action, and it gets things done. So they all were talking about anger management. That anger is something that is necessary, but it needs to be managed. In other words, you can't let it get out of hand, or you can't get crazy with anger, right? So some anger is okay, it's acceptable. Still, that was a bit difficult for me to understand. Why would anger at all be acceptable? It was like saying, some hitting is acceptable, but you shouldn't get out of hand. Some killing is acceptable, but you shouldn't get out of hand. Maybe you think this is, not a fair comparison. Because anger is kind of a companion to us that we don't necessarily want to have, but we find anger to be necessary sometimes. It helps us. It helps us to get things done sometimes. Or just letting anger out feels good. Sometimes just going on a rampage with anger feels good. Afterwards, you feel like, I feel better now, instead of holding the anger inside. Some people were saying, well, it's not good to suppress anger. I agree with that statement. It's not good to suppress anger. It's like poison. You don't want to hold it inside. It does you no good. Until I found that the way our bodies work, our brains work, is that we have certain mechanisms that come into play in response to certain outside stimuli. What does that mean? It means if I point a finger at someone or threaten them in any particular way, they're going to show me a response. And these responses, they are known as fight, flight, or freeze set of responses. Any living being does that. You do this to anyone, they're either going to submit to you, or they're going to fight you, or they're going to flee. One of these. And anger plays an important role in that, because this question of threat or imminent threat does produce an angry response. But that response is based on this, again, mechanism in the brain, which is more reflexive. In other words, a reflex hits you like a bolt of lightning. It lasts only a fraction of a second. That bolt of lightning is meant to do something. That bolt of lightning is supposed to wake you or focus you on something that your body recognizes as something really critical. So that bolt of anger is supposed to alert you and protect you from harm and from danger. But the problem I have is not with the reflexive part of anger, it's with what I call the chronic part of it. It's the part that keeps going after that initial bolt of lightning. It's the part that we have a say in. We don't have a say in the reflexes that are built into us, but we have a say in everything else that is not reflexive. In other words, we can choose differently. We can think about what chronic anger is and why does it happen. Unfortunately, we have many examples of anger on display every single day by everybody. Everybody gets angry. And we have come to accept a certain degree of anger, as I said. It's acceptable, and sometimes they call it's necessary. To me and in my world, anything beyond the reflex of the anger emotion is harmful. It's not necessary. I don't know any single time when I made a decision in anger that I did not live to regret afterwards, or I didn't have to apologize for afterwards, or I didn't feel shame about afterwards. Anything I did in anger turned out negatively. Then I decided, okay, I don't know how anger grabs a hold of me. I don't know what to do about this, but I'm going to do one thing. I'm not going to make any decisions when I'm angry. I'm not going to confront anybody in an angry state. I'm going to take a step back from the brink. You know, like they say, take a deep breath. That taking deep breath is like changing gears in a car as you're driving, to take pressure off and to disengage from this particular brain circuitry that puts you in that fight mode. What you're saying is, someone insulted me, okay, I'm going to step back and I'm not going to respond like this because I know it's going to end badly. In military terms, they say a good military commander is the one that can dissociate from his emotions on the battlefield so they can think clearly and they can not get anger get in their way. They say, do not hate your enemy because it clouds your vision. So we know there are separate brain circuitries at work here. One is the smart one. One is the one that thinks about consequences and actions and chooses. The other one seems to be just an off-the-shelf mechanism that comes into play every time we lose control, right? And in civil situations, when there is a fight and the police are involved, they are trained how to de-escalate the situation by not directly responding to that threat in that same way, by trying to calm the person down. You know, we know when in rage, someone can act totally differently than they were otherwise. When someone, let's say in a road rage situation, they might even kill someone else. This could be a bookkeeper who ordinarily goes to work and comes home and doesn't bother anybody. But once they hit that button, that anger takes them all the way to killing someone. So this is why I don't see anything positive coming out of anger. They say anger drives you. I think there is a misunderstanding here. It's not anger that drives you. It's passion that drives you. Anger only destroys. The two towers in New York took years and thousands of man-hours, and they took love and attention and commitment until they were delivered on opening day. But it took the better part of 30 minutes, I think, for each one to collapse into nothingness. Anger, hatred, it's a powerful force, but it does only one thing. It destroys. But it is love and compassion that help build. And they are hard. Anger is easy. Exploding is easy. But it's stepping back and away from anger and choosing to deal with the situation. That is what takes time. It takes work. It is painful. But anger is easy. Anger is like throwing a hand grenade out into something you can't deal with. You know, I thought about the things that made me angry in my life, and I thought, do I ever get angry when I'm thirsty? And the answer was no. I thought, why don't I get angry when I'm thirsty? Because I know I can go get water. So I thought maybe I'm getting angry at things I have no control over, the things I can't resolve, these roadblocks that frustrate me. I felt like anger was like being stuck in a dead end. Being stuck in a dead end is frustrating. And when I don't know what else to do, I get angry. If I knew what to do with that dead end, if I knew a way out, if there was a doorway I knew about, I wouldn't be angry. So anger, this chronic anger, is my inability to deal with any particular problem or situation. That's what it is. So what that tells me is, if I learn how to handle particular problems or situations, I'm not going to have the only one response off the shelf, which is anger. Looking at a parent-child situation, I was visiting somewhere one day, and this little boy did something that the parent didn't like, and the parent suddenly just exploded into anger and burst out, and the little kid just froze out of fear. And then the parent went on to explain that she didn't know what to do anymore with this kid, because no matter how many times she tried to get this message across for this kid not to do that one thing, the kid was doing that one thing. And she just didn't know what to do. She was in that dead-end street. That's where she was. She found herself. Because if she knew how to deal with that kid, how to get the message across, this angry outburst was not going to be an option. Was not going to be a reaction. An angry reaction is me throwing my arms up in the air and say, okay, I give up. I don't know what I'm doing. So differentiating and understanding the anger mechanism would help anyone understand themselves better. And the angrier a person, the less tools they have in the toolbox to deal with anything, with the world. They say angry people get things done, especially if they are in a management position, if they're in charge of people. Imagine an angry boss. An angry boss who is just angry and everybody's scared of, and everybody falls into line because they don't want to get him any more angry than he is. So out of fear, they do what he wants. That sounds like a bully to me. But in our world, that's a respectable business person. That's a model of someone who knows how to get things done. So, example of a company that's not producing well enough because they have a boss in charge who refuses to get angry and push people around. They change management. Somebody comes in, fires half the staff, and is angry all the time with everybody else, and everybody falls into line out of fear and does exactly what they're supposed to do exactly what they're supposed to do. Then this person is a good manager because they know how to get things done through their anger. And anger is cheap. Like I said, it needs no work whatsoever. And, that is why they find it useful to use anger that way, intimidation and anger, because it produces fear in the opposing party, in the receiving party. But anger to me is a sign of weakness. It's not a sign of strength. Because if you're strong enough, you have enough tools and knowledge to deal with whatever problem you have. But if you're getting angry, that means you don't have the tools and you don't know what to do. You are frustrated. That's what you're really saying. You are frustrated. I used to think that certain people made me angry. Certain situations made me angry. Because someone acted in a certain way, I had a right to be angry at them because of what they did. So I said, well, they make me angry. But actually, they didn't make me angry. The problem was with me. I didn't know how to accept whatever they were. If I could accept whatever they were, I wouldn't get angry. But because I couldn't accept, then whatever they were doing or whatever they were made me angry because I couldn't accept. And that acceptance relates directly into the question of control. Because I expect to control everything and everyone. And when those things and those people don't go according to plan, they don't do what I expect of them, then I get angry. So finding the real reasons behind anger and chronic anger. People can sometimes be angry an entire lifetime. I'm not saying they're going to be angry every single moment. What I'm saying is they're going to have dormant anger, like the Incredible Hulk, ready to pop at any moment, right? We've all known people like that. We've had parents like that. We've had siblings like that. We've had family members. We've had coworkers. People who seem to be nice and compassionate, but then you do whatever they judge to be wrong, and there they go. And so this chronic disease of anger, not only does it damage the person holding the anger, just the opposite of compassion, it destroys from within, and then it touches everybody that it comes into contact with. It only produces a negative emotional response. That's all. And anger seems to be a major issue in our lives. Major issue. I think if people could sit down and work problems out and knew, in one of the Scandinavian countries, I don't know which one, but they teach problem-solving skills early on to kids. The reason is, the more tools they have, the more ways they have to solve issues and problems, the less angry they're likely to get. I think by comparison, people living in the Scandinavian region, they display a far less degree of anger compared to a lot of other places. Maybe it's because of this approach. Maybe they know that if you teach people how to recognize their own emotions, the mechanisms that are at play, and also give them the tools to handle difficulties, to negotiate these tight turns along the way, they're not going to get angry. It's just like, imagine your car breaks down. Your car breaks down. If you know what the problem is and you know how to fix it, you're not going to be angry. But if you don't have a clue, and if there's no one around to help, you're going to look up to the sky and just say, why is this happening to me? And you're going to be angry. So if there is a solution, no reason for anger. But if you find yourself weak or unable to negotiate any problem, the one response you have left is anger. So I think, again, just like the example of the policeman trying to de-escalate a situation, stepping away from the brink, this is going to be a good starting point for us to realize at which points are we likely to cross this kind of red line of anger and step away from it and back away from it and do take that deep breath and do try to de-escalate. I know of families who've been angry at each other for decades. You know, what is it that's so unforgivable? I don't know. But holding on to anger, to dormant anger just beneath the surface, is very unhealthy. Very unhealthy. So let's just think about this and, again, try to step back away from the brink, because we always have a choice. This is the reason why. We may feel we're not in control when we're angry, but we are. We're always present, always there. A choice can be made at every turn. At every turn. We can choose not to shoot. We can choose not to blow up. And that teaches us control, and it shows us that we are in charge. Anger is not in charge. We are in charge. We can do that. Only if we choose to do it. Only if we see ourselves as capable of choosing differently and stepping away from anger and understanding that anger is only destructive, it's only poisonous. That's anger.